Hello students, a very good morning to you. I hope all of you are doing fine at your homes along with your families. So how is the studies going on? You can give me your feedback so that I can adjust my videos according to your requirement. The main intention of these videos is that you can learn the subject staying at home and master the subject actually, not just learn. Well prepare for the board examinations. That's why I'm going through very slowly and I'm covering each and every topic and question that is there in the NCERT textbook. Besides the NCERT textbook, it is your responsibility, it's your duty to solve the questions from another textbook also. To solve the questions that have been asked in the examinations or to solve the questions from any other sources that you can find. Okay, so in this video, we will discuss three questions. The questions are there on your screen. These questions are from exercise 1.3 of NCERT textbook. Question number 1 is prove that square root 5 is irrational. Question number 2 is prove that 3 plus 2 square root 5 is irrational. Question number 3 is prove the following are irrationals. 1 upon square root 2, 7 into square root 5 and 6 plus square root 2. Basically, we have covered all these questions in the previous two videos. Do you remember? Have you seen the previous videos? But again, these questions are back. And these questions are repeated in the NCERT textbook also. Mainly because these questions are very important from the exam perspective. In the board examination, any one of these three questions will definitely come. There is no escaping this fact. Instead of this square root 5, you may get square root 3 to prove that square root 3 is irrational or square root 2 is irrational. So all these questions will remain the same. It will not change the question. Again here also, instead of 3 there can be any number 2, 5, 7, 9, 2, 5, 7, 9, any number. Will it change the answer? No. Instead of this 2 square root 5, there can be any other number also. That will also not change the question. So this question we had discussed it in the previous video also. Again we'll discuss it here. Similarly with question number 3 also. Now in total there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 proof in this exercise. Out of these 5, one has to be there in the exam. It has to be there. You cannot escape it. Okay, so this video, exercise 1.3 of the NCERT textbook is extremely important. Yes, board examination is almost 1 year away now. It's too early to talk about all these things, but you should be prepared. You can mark it in your textbook that this will come in the exam. Okay, so let's start with the proofs now. Question number 1. Prove that square root 5 is irrational. Now we have already discussed that we prove this thing, this question by which method? Proof by contradiction. So it's all a repetition of what we have done in the previous video. This will be done by proof by contradiction. What does the word contradiction mean? Contradiction means to negate something, to say something opposite of what is there. So contradiction here means we will say that whatever is given in the question, the statement, this is wrong. Square root 5 is irrational, we will say that this is wrong. And when we say that this is wrong, we arrive at something else that is wrong. Isn't it? We assume that square root 5 is rational. We have to assume that. And after assuming this, we will follow some steps, mathematical steps, which will lead us to a result which cannot be true. Which cannot be true in any case. So that means whatever we have assumed is wrong, this assumption is wrong. That is how we go by this proof. ठीक है? ठीक है ना? ठीक. So let square root 5 is rational. Then we can write square root 5 is equal to A divided by B, where A and B are co-prime integers. What do you mean by co-prime? Do you remember that? Co-prime means there is no common factor between A and B, as in 3 by 4, 7 by 9, 2 by 11, something like that. There is nothing common. You cannot write 7 by 14 because 7 by 14 will be equal to 1 by 2, isn't it? So these are the two numbers which are co-prime, and if you say 7 by 14, this is not co-prime. So we write 5 square root 5 in the form A by B. Now we have said that square root 5 is rational. We have assumed that when it is rational, then A by B can be written in this form, wherein both A and B are integers. Okay, so we have said A and B are two integers, and square root 5 is equal to A upon B. Fair enough. Then what did we do? Try to recall. We said, what did we say? We squared both sides. Square both sides gives us 5 is equal to A square divided by B square. This gives us 5B square is equal to A square. What does this imply? 5 divides A square. And we had seen a theorem wherein which said that if P divides A square, P has to divide A also. This means 5 divides A. Okay. So this was our equation number 1. Now, when 5 divides A, we can write A is equal to 5C. Isn't it? Now, so this is equation number 2. Substitute 2 in 1. What do we get? 5A square is equal to 5C square. That is equal to 25C square. Very simple. This gives us A square is equal to 5C square. This is our equation number 3. Now here what can we say? 5 divides A square. Is it? Then we can say, okay, sorry. There's a small mistake over here. What's the mistake? Did you see? This was B. Five B square. 5 divides B square. This means 5 divides B. When 5 divides B also and 5 divides A also, that means 5 is a common factor of both A and B, which cannot be true. Which cannot be true. So we have arrived at a contradiction. Hence, square root 5 is irrational. This contradiction occurred only because we had assumed that square root 5 is rational. So that assumption is false. Square root 5 is irrational. The second question is, prove that 3 plus 2 square root 5 is irrational. Again, we'll do the same thing. proof by contradiction. So we'll assume, let us assume, what will be assumed? 3 plus 2 square root 5 is rational, isn't it? When we have assumed it to be rational, we can write 3 plus 2 square root 5 is equal to a upon b, where a and b are co-primes, isn't it? That means what do we get? 3 plus 2 square root of 5, this is equal to a upon b. We will leave this on one side and bring this 3 on the other side. So we get 2 square root of 5 is equal to a divided by b minus 3. What will this be equal to? This will be equal to a minus 3b divided by b. And then just leave this square root 5 on for left side and get the 2 on the right hand side. What do we get? A minus 3b divided by 2b. Now what do we see? Left hand side is square root 5. We already know that this is an irrational number. We have proved it in question number 1. So we already know that this square root 5 is a rational number, and the right hand side, is this rational or not? Let me make some space over here. Now we already know, that square root 5 is irrational, but RHS is rational. We have all integers in the RHS. A is an integer, 3 is an integer, B is an integer, 2 is an integer, and again B is an integer. And we are adding, subtracting, multiplying and dividing. Only these operations are there. So after doing all these operations, what we will get is a rational number. So RHS is rational. Hence we arrive at a contradiction. Therefore, 3 plus 2 square root 5 is irrational. Is it okay? Okay. Let's see the third question. Prove that the following are irrationals. First is 1 upon square root 2. Again, this question I'll try to do it a little in short. You can write all the details. Let us assume that 1 upon square root 2 is rational. And when we have assumed that this will be equal to a upon b, both a and b are co-primes. Now what can we do? We square both the sides. Sorry, we need not do all those details here. We already know that square root 2 is rational. We already know that square root 2 is rational. We can use that fact over here. So what will we get? Square root 2 is equal to b upon a. And b upon a is rational. B upon a is rational. But we know that square root 2 is irrational. Therefore, LHS cannot be equal to RHS. A rational number can never be equal to an irrational number. Therefore, we arrive at a contradiction, isn't it? We arrive at a contradiction. So, our assumption is wrong, and 1 upon square root 2 is not irrational. 1 upon square root 2 is not an rational number, it is an irrational number. Okay. Similarly, you can do the question part B of this question. Same process. We are doing the same question again and again. बार बार एक ही चीज कर रहे हैं. Why are we trying to do the same question again and again? So that it sets in our mind very nicely. So that we don't face a problem when the question appears in the examination. So we'll do the same thing. 7 square root 5 is equal to a upon b, and then we get square root of 5 is equal to a upon 7b, and then we get RHS is equal to rational number, LHS is not rational number, LHS is irrational number, hence a contradiction, hence our assumption is wrong, hence the number given is irrational. As simple as that. What can we do in the question number 3, part 3 of the third question? Very similar process. We have already done it in question number 2 also. We have done it in the previous video also. We have done it so many times. 6 plus square root 2 can be written to be equal to a upon b. Then we have to write square root 2 is equal to a upon b minus 6. That will be equal to a minus 6b divided by b. Isn't it? Again, RHS is rational. LHS is not rational. Hence a contradiction. Therefore, 6 plus square root 2 is an irrational number. That was about exercise 1.3 of the NCERT book. Now you have to practice other questions like this from other textbooks which you have handy. If you do not have any other textbook, you have to purchase one textbook. Any textbook will do. If you can get a textbook from any of your neighbors, that will also suffice. And practice the questions from there. Okay? Okay. I'm hoping to see some questions in the comment section. Okay. Thank you. See you again.